Welcome. In this video I'm going to be taking a look at the ZOTEK ZTX digital multimeter. So this was provided to me by the distributor, but they're not compensating me for this video and they're not reviewing it before I post it. If you find this video helpful and you want to purchase one of these, I'll put a link to it in the description on Amazon. And if you use that link, it helps me out a little bit and doesn't cost you anything extra. So let's get this open. Here's the multimeter. So the unique feature of this meter is that it's an all-button design. So it's pretty common on meters to have a rotary selector, but with this meter you press buttons to change the modes. So this could be great for a one-handed use. It could also help for people that would have trouble rotating a dial. So that's a neat feature. Before we take a closer look, let's look at the manual. So we have contents, safety information. Here's the instruments overview. You can pause and read through that, but I'll cover a couple different things. We have the auto manual ranging. We have capacitance test, diode continuity, AC-DC current, AC-DC voltage, hertz, temperature, resistance, current voltage. I may have repeated that. This is a true RMS meter, has a hold function. This talks about how to use it. So you hold the power button down for 2 seconds to turn it on or off. It automatically powers off after 5 minutes. The built-in beeper beeps 5 times 1 minute before it powers off. To disable the auto power off function, hold down the range while turning on the product. So if you don't like that auto off, it does have a way to bypass it. So it has a hold button. So if you have a reading on there, you can press that to hold it. You can also hold it down to turn it to relative mode. That will make your readings relative. So the first button here is to toggle between AC and DC voltage and non-contact voltage. So this has a non-contact voltage detector, and I'll demonstrate that. The next button has DC millivolts, AC millivolts, and temperature. After that, we have resistance, diode continuity, and capacitance. Then we have the range button. Now this does have auto ranging. And then the 7th button here is for duty cycle. This is about the input terminals. We have a terminal for amps, microamps, the common, and then your standard input for everything else. This talks about how to measure different things. So you'll want to read through this. Here's maintenance, and here are the specs. So I'll flip through these. You can pause through and read them if you'd like. It does take 2 AA batteries, and it looks like it comes with batteries. There's more specs. There we go. Okay, so here's the meter itself. Has a protective cover on the screen. There's a little note here on the current sockets. It says stop testing voltage in current mode. Tear off before use. Now this has a kickstand on the back, so I'll pull that out. The batteries will go back here, so I'll get a screwdriver. So that screw is not captive, so you want to make sure you keep track of that. I'll open this up. Put the batteries in. Okay, should be ready to go now. Looks like it's on. Let me adjust my camera here. Okay, there we go. So it comes with a set of probes. So I'll pull the caps out of the ends that go into the meter. Now the other ends, you can pull this off to have more metal exposed. I'm always very careful when I do this. I don't want to stab myself. So this will give you more metal, and then we can put these back on, and then we just have the tip showing. So I'll place this in COM here, and then I will place it in the input there. Now this also does come with a temperature probe, and this is a pretty long probe too. So this will plug into the meter, and then we can measure temperature with it. So I'll check that out in a little bit. But let's pull this a little closer. So you can see the screen here. It's very high contrast. It's very easy to read. Now these buttons on here are rubberized, so they're pretty grippy. So if I want to change a mode, whereas typically you would do the rotary selector, you just press a button here. So here's AC. So AC, it looks like we have the volts and the hertz up there. And here's the non-contact voltage. Then if we want to go to, this would be micro DC volts, micro AC volts, temperature. Okay, next one we have, this is resistance, diode, continuity, capacitance. Okay, and then we have the duty cycle over here. So let's start at DC voltage. I'm going to measure the voltage of this battery here. Okay, we're at 9.28 volts. So that looks really nice. Here's another battery. And get good contact on it. There we go. We have 1.557. Let's measure some AC. Now I want to say, if you don't know how to do this safely, you need to learn that before you do measure AC or any kind of dangerous voltages. So I'm going to pull the ends off the probes here. So I'll plug this in. Okay, so we're getting 121.3 volts and we have 60 hertz. Very nice. So to test some of the other functions, I'll bring up my old project kit I had when I was a kid. So this has lots of components on it. So I'll switch over here. We're in the resistance mode. I'll measure some resistors. Here's a 33K resistor. So here we're getting 33.5. That's pretty good. 10. We're getting 9.9. So you won't necessarily get the exact measurement because there is a tolerance there. Here's 120. Okay, go to the next mode. This is diode continuity. So if I hold them together, it will beep. And we can also test diodes. So I have a diode here. So I'm getting 0.4 volts there. I'll swap my leads. And we're getting 0. So to test a diode, you'll test it both ways. You want to read voltage one direction, but not the other. We'll hit it again. We'll do capacitance. Here I have an electrolytic capacitor. I'll measure it. I'll hold these on there for a little bit. And this is a 1000 microfarad. We're getting 870.6. Here's a 10 microfarad. We're getting 8.31. Here's a ceramic. This is 0.022. So we're getting 17.58 nanofarad. And then this is 0.0022 microfarad. So here we're getting 2 nanofarad. So with those modes, you can test resistors, capacitors, things like that. It's pretty common to test capacitors on electronics because they go bad. So you can test them to see if they're any good and then replace them if they're not. So let's go back to the middle mode, to temperature. Pull these probes out. And we'll put the temperature probes in. So this will give us a temperature reading. Now it shows us Celsius and Fahrenheit at the same time. So if you use one or the other, you don't have to switch back and forth. Let me put this in my hand and try and heat it up. Okay, so we're heating it up with my hand. We're at 70, 72 Fahrenheit, 22 Celsius. And now it's rising. So having a thermometer can be very handy. Maybe you have an air conditioner or a dehumidifier. You can put this in there and turn it on, and you can see if the temperature is changing. It's not always easy to tell just putting your hand in front of it or something. This also has the non-contact voltage. So if I go to EF here, I'll get a power cord and I'll put it up to it. And we can see that's beeping because it's detecting power. Now, like every other non-contact voltage detector, you'll want to test this on a known good source before you test it on an unknown wire. And even then, you still need to be careful because there could always be situations where it doesn't detect it. But that's nice built right into the meter, because even after I shut off circuits, maybe even use my meter to detect for voltage, it's nice to do that. I have had situations where I was replacing a switch and the switch box actually had multiple circuits running through it. So a tool like this can help catch that. Then to turn it off, we'll hold down the power button. So that's the ZOTEK ZTX digital multimeter. I like the design of this. It's very compact, has that rubberized grip around it so it's easy to hold. I think that's a neat design just having buttons on this. So this multimeter may not be for everyone, but I definitely think there are people that will find this handy. In the past I've had one with a rotary selector and I'll try and move it with my thumb, and then I overshoot it so I have to kind of pull it back, and it's really not that easy to work with one hand. This one you can just press the buttons to work with one hand, so that's really nice. I really like the screen on this. I found it easy to read. This would also be easy to read in the dark. Let me turn the light off here real quick. I mean, it doesn't get much easier to read than that. It actually has very good contrast on it too. And this multimeter also comes with all the features on it you would expect, like voltage, ohms, but also comes with capacitance, diode, non-contact voltage, etc. So it's really feature-filled. So that's all I'm going to cover in this video. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. If you like this video, please click like. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, I'd appreciate if you could do that. And thanks for watching. Until next time, goodbye.